whenever I'm faced with something that feels really daunting to me, I up the ante. And I do something beforehand that feels more terrifying to me than the actual thing that I want to do.
Even the memory of having done things that other people look at and say, that's hard or that's impossible.
Yeah. And it does something to reset that threshold of what you think you can do and what feels scary for you. And in our modern world, such little, and I'm going to put that in quotation marks, but so very little is actually scary, feels scary, that when we want to do something simple as making a phone call, if you do something that ups the ante, that phone call is going to mean nothing to you, and you're going to sail through that. It sharpens you. And this is the most amazing tool that you have, that if you know how to mold it, it will take you in directions that you can just...
Welcome to Season 3 of Beyond the Business Plan, the podcast for burned out professionals and entrepreneurs who know there's more to life than just hitting the next revenue goal. I'm Lyon, founder and chief joy officer of joyminder.com. I'm a private money broker and creator of the S.A.I.L.I.N.G System, S.A.I.L.I.N.G System, for designing a business and life you actually love. Each week this season, I'll be talking with guests and sharing stories about what happens after the business plan works. Money, real estate, legacy, faith, and whole person success. If you're ready to join the sales setters and chart your own course beyond burnout, hit that follow or subscribe so you catch every episode. If you're a high-achieving professional who's burned out at work, second-guessing yourself, or stuck in that I know what to do, but I'm not doing it loop, this episode is for you. Whether you're in real estate, sales, or a corporate role just dreaming about your own business, you've probably felt that tug of war between your big vision and your very human brain. Today, I am talking with Coach B, a neuroscience-based real estate production coach who helps people move past fear, avoidance, and overthinking so that they can take confident, consistent action without burning out their lives to grow their business. Who is this transformation artist who helps those feeling called to grow and go beyond their current business plan? Let's find out. Birgit Biehl, are you there?
I am here and so excited. Thank you for having me.
It's a magical way that we got to know each other. Maybe we'll get into that later in the show, but I'm so glad that you're here. Every time I talk with burned out professionals, I hear some version of, why can't I just do the things I know I need to do? And I know that's right up your wheelhouse.
Yes, that is absolutely right up my wheelhouse. I have been spending so much time with real estate agents. I'm mostly working with real estate agents now, and we talk exactly about that. We all know what to do. We've been given the tools. We have the skills for the most part, but we have our CRMs, all the scripts, but then something happens and we can't do it. And so that's why I come in to help triage and help really figure out what's not working. And the secret ingredient really is clarity. It's a lack of clarity in that space of what needs to happen next in order to make a connection happen, make the next conversation happen, and let's just face it, make the next deal happen.
Well, before we get into the science, I'd love to let people meet you as a human first. Hiker, mom, coffee lover. Yay! Love it. And then we'll connect. For those listening to the podcast, I just showed my massive cup of coffee because I have one all the time. Jump over to YouTube if you want to watch it. And then we'll connect with the work that you do. So when you look back on your own journey, was there a moment when you realized pushing harder isn't working? I have to understand my brain, that shifted you towards the neuroscience-based coaching instead of more hustle?
Yes. So first of all, I was trained as more of an energy coach. So I am an ICF certified coach through the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. And so we at that point really didn't get to learn about applied neuroscience. And to me, it was there was always felt like there was something missing. We got to learn about how energy affects the things that we do and don't do, and that makes a big difference. Yet I always felt like there was more pieces missing that helped us understand more on how do we create this energy and what makes it all tick. So I discovered that in my own life, that I also have my own plans, and it's like so many other people, we do have plans and we end up getting stuck in them and we can't move. And it became part of that discovery that eventually led me, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago, into more of the applied neuroscience. And to me, it really is the best of both worlds, where I can combine asking people powerful questions about certain things that they believe or hang on to, while also bringing some explanation in on what's happening in their brain and why it is that they do the things that they do or don't do. And then there's some very physiological reasons for that that we all encounter on a daily basis. So yeah, but it came with identifying that for myself first, and then seeking the answers for that. And to me, that part is what just rounds out the entire coaching experience. And it is different than what we're currently seeing in sales coaching or real estate coaching, for sure.
Wow, wonderful. Well, I know you talk about the 2-year-old brain that runs the show for us, for so many of us. I mean, 2-year-old tantrums, right? So, for the person listening that's in sales, leadership, or a corporate role, how do you explain what that is and how it shows up day to day?
So it's a part of our brain that likes to show up when we have a plan. The best way to identify it, we've all been in a place where we have a new idea. We have this vision that comes in. We want to create something. We want to change something, whether in our existing business or do something new. And right away, all the hows come in. How are you going to do it, Leanne? How are you going to do that? How are you going to pay for it? Who's going to make this happen? And that is a classic example of what I refer to as the 2-year-old brain, the brain that is here to keep us protected. And it comes in and it wants to throw a tantrum. And so that's where we say, you know what? It's okay. I got this. And I make a visual. It's like we take this little loving 2-year-old and we sit it down in a chair, almost like on a timeout. We're going to have it a loving timeout. Say, you know what? I got this. Trust me, I've got this. So before we come in with all the hows, we have to be able to let a vision come to life. So, because a vision becomes the fuel, then to be able to tackle all the hows and help us to bring this thing to fruition. So, but that's usually one of the best ways that I can paint the 2-year-old brain, because it's a classic example of how it gets in the way.
Excellent. I know we've talked about the S.A.I.L.I.N.G system, which is the proprietary system we have in Joyminder. You identified that the stages that you're really good at helping people with are the launch into the unknown stage, where you're like officially starting a new business, a new endeavor, a new project, the navigating the storm stage, the resilience, the adjusting to the challenges, and of course, one of my favorite stages, the stage of grow and go beyond. So, for listeners, by the way, check below in the show notes. Download your own version of the S.A.I.L.I.N.G system. Find out what aligns with you. Where are you in the S.A.I.L.I.N.G system? Are you just starting out? Are you setting your anchor? Are you ready to launch? Are you ready to go and grow beyond? That's part of what we'd love to share with you. And we've got qualified, wonderful people to help you with every single stage. So you're going to gain a lot from this episode with Birgit. And be sure to connect with us and get that download today. And by the way, grab some coffee. This is going to be a great conversation. So let's get back to it and go to whyilovemycoffee.com after the show. Okay, Birgit. So we just talked about, you love the launching, you love the navigating the storms, you love the grow and go beyond. Your niche, which way is it? Niche or niche?
I call it niche.
Niche. Okay.
Yeah.
Niche is rich. Okay. So your niche is real estate agents in that $2 million to $6 million range who feel stuck at a production ceiling. What patterns of overwhelm, avoidance, or inconsistency do you see there that also show up in other industries? So this would be the navigating the storm stage, I believe.
So I think what I see there a lot is systems are not coming alongside the way they need to. And I was look at systems as our scaffolding. So our systems are not building the way they need to build in order to support. We can support up to a certain point and do everything our own, but somewhere along the line, the systems have to come alongside with us so we can focus on the number one thing that we need to focus on as real estate agents, which I know if you guys know me out there and you've seen it, you probably will roll your eyes at me, but I always say it's two-way real estate related conversations. That is our number one job as real estate agents. And that's what we need to focus on so we can continue building our pipeline and close those deals. So that's one of the things that we see. Belief systems, oftentimes, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it is not good enough, whether it is all kinds of different belief systems that show up. I call them lovingly all our gremlins that want to hold us back. And especially if we've been at a certain place in life, or we come from a certain upbringing and we just have a hard time envisioning ourselves being at a different, place. Skill level. When I see agents who are stuck at a certain point and they want to go into a different monetary arena, we look at skill level. What is it about the skills that you currently have that need either freshening up or need to be changed? So you can have different, better conversations to get to where you want to go. You know, we look at containers. Are you having the right containers that you're fishing out from? I always say fishing because once you learn how to fish in real estate and you stop waiting for the fish to come into the boat, nobody will take that away from you. No market cycle, no, nothing will take that away. So do I have the right containers identified in that journey? So that's usually where it starts, and bring it into clarity and then coming up with a plan for an agent to move from where they're currently at to where they want to be. So it's a bit of diagnosing what's currently on, what's going on, where you're at, and then coming up with a plan so they can move where they want to go.
Can you share a story of somebody you've worked with? No naming names, of course, but maybe an agent who was trapped in fear or overthinking, and walk us through what shifted when they started working with their brain instead of fighting it?
Yes. And I can certainly, I would have no problem with that person naming his name and he would not, also not. So if it's okay, I
Yeah,
would
go
totally.
for it. Yeah.
So Ruben is, honestly one of my favorite real estate clients I have. He has accomplished so much. So initially I started working with him when he made a transition to our office at that time, and he was fairly new in the industry. He's coming from Venezuela. And so, he started off with one brokerage, didn't really catch the fire the way he wanted to, didn't get the support, came over to us. I had just started a brand new real estate training program that I rolled out within this brokerage where I combined traditional real estate sales coaching and the neuroscience. So every corner, every page that we turn, if we run up against something that we're saying, oh no, I can't do that. I can't make these phone calls. I really can't do that. We go right into how come and what do we want to do about it. So we don't go through 6 weeks of training and then end up still not being able to do the things that we need to do, right? That's the whole point of this conversation. So anyways, he comes in, we started working together, and he was I call him my guinea pig for this program because he worked with me for the very first time when I first rolled it out, and he got so much out of it. So he probably had that year, gosh, if he had $1 million in sales, maybe 2 million, I don't think that's even close. And then we had some goals, and by the end of the year, he had $5 million in sales. Exactly. And that wasn't even full year because I think he started in March of that year with us. Um, and then last year he doubled close to 10 million. And we spend a lot of time. So he's still with me now as part of mentorship that I offer. And we spend a lot of time in helping him stay straight here and having the right mindset to be able to continuously get him to this place that he wants to go. Because for 2026, like I said, he wants to double from 10 million as a single agent. And that takes a different kind of, a mindset. And he finds that, he found that and finds that super valuable because he always gets insights. He's recognizing how his brain acts in certain instances. So it's helping to create that self-awareness so he can take those tools with him and apply them in his own life. Our body is a perfect machine that constantly gives us clues physiologically and where we're at. Anxiety is a clue. When we are getting this feeling of stuck, or I get this thing in my throat or my chest, these are clues that allow us to identify something that help us move in a different direction.
Ah, I love that. So, what I'm hearing, and I know I've heard this phrase, maybe you can address this a little bit. If you're stuck in the past, you often will feel a sense of depression.
Mhm.
If you're stuck in the future, that's where anxiety can come in. So, how important is it to stay present and acknowledging what's going on right now?
100% important to stay present, and it's the acknowledgement of I can't do anything that happened in the past. The past is the past. I can't change it. So if I'm giving it energy now, then I'm not focusing on what I currently want to create. So there's a saying, if I constantly stare at something that I'm not picking up the floor, then it's taken my energy away from what I really could be thinking of. So pick the darn thing off the floor so you can give your brain space to think about what's really important. Future, future pretends to be necessary. Future wants to be there, wants to be addressed, wants to be heard. And so we worry about the future because it feels necessary. Because if our brain doesn't know what's around the corner, its safety is threatened. And so we go right back into fight or flight and we worry, we worry, we worry. It shuts us down and we tend to not accomplish in the way that we want to accomplish. So presence is here. Here's where we get to be creative and we get to plan and we get to live for planning for that future in a creative way. Worry back here, where that more older part, that more ancient part of our brain sits that worries about safety and threats and things like that. So staying present, 100% key in creating forward movement. I know it's contrary because we're planning for the future, but we want to be right there in that present moment so we can create what it is that we need to create today in order to move the future forward per se.
So I'm going to be a little vulnerable here for a minute. Yesterday, I found out something had happened in my business that I had no idea was happening in my business, and it crushed me. I mean,
Oh,
to the point of like, even now, if you're watching YouTube, you're going to see I tear up a little bit. I'm okay. But it crushed. It hurt that I had missed that this was going on. And I allowed myself to feel it. I allowed myself to scream. And I'm not known for using any foul male language, but maybe yesterday just a tiny bit.
yeah.
And just let it out. I felt like I needed to get it out of my system. And even when I recognized it and the person I was speaking with, I just said, hey, we can't fix it. It's already happened. It's already done. It's my job now as the business owner to figure out where I'm going to take this in the future. Um, do you have any coaching that you would offer somebody in that situation?
So the coaching that I would offer in a moment would be learning or basically giving you the ability to process what's there. So emotion is energy
Mm,
and it needs to go somewhere. So in a sense, how you process through it, we can't change the past. Coaching is always future oriented, right? So can't change the past. What do I want for the future? Let's walk in that direction. But there's tools that can be given that allow you to process through certain things in a better way When
Yeah.
we don't process well, we tend to overeat, we tend to drink, we're going to take an afternoon and watch Netflix. That is not ideal processing of our emotional state. So where you went to as far as being very visceral about your emotion and how you're letting that move through, that is the better way of processing. It's energy. Energy has to go through. Exactly. So right on the way, I mean, you process it. It doesn't take the sting away any more or less. That will come through, and we will come back to a baseline of resilience, because that's when your resilience kicks in, right? Your resilience kicks in and you're like, okay, take a deep breath here, nothing I can do, but I'm already in forward momentum again.
So glad you said that word. This is my third season, and when I run, my transcripts and things, I'm using AI to do some of that. Resilience is what comes up every
Yeah.
single time. Resilience is really what it seems to take to move forward, to go beyond, even to launch or even begin thinking about launching,
Yeah.
because things are going to happen.
Yes.
People have told me the book I need to write is about how I pivot. Like even yesterday's situation, like I feel it, I felt it,
Yes.
but now what? And I'm already solving the problem. I'm already finding solutions. I'm already making sure it won't happen again. And, that is part of what we have to do as entrepreneurs. For anybody thinking about entrepreneurship, that's why I want you to hear these stories on this show. I want you to hear how resilient people
Mhm.
are. And I also want you to hear how resilient you are or can be. And often with the help of people like Birgit or other coaches that are just really, I mean, what's the word I can use? You're so eager and anxious, not anxious in a bad way, but eager and excited to help people through those types of situations. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely right. I love for this work anytime I can allow people to see themselves in a different way or give them a glimpse of who they can become. It makes my day. And so I live for this work. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what has me stay up late at night. That's what has me giving, endless because it just gives me truly it's joy. It's my joy to allow you to see yourself in a whole different light and acknowledge that that you do not have to give credence to everything that's sitting in here. It's a thought, and we have to remember, what is a thought? And if I'm thinking one thing, I can certainly think of something else, a different thought, even though that feels more foreign, to allow me to move forward in the direction that I actually want to go. Pick your thoughts carefully. What I said is maybe you think 60, 80,000 thoughts a day. So curate them to choose the ones that actually allow you to move forward.
Well, now you brought a whole different tear to my eye of just joy, I'm so grateful for your words here. I know a lot of my listeners are burned out professionals who are either building a business on the side or thinking about making that leap. And maybe it's into real estate, right?
Right?
So, how does understanding the neuroscience of confidence and consistency help them take that scary aligned action instead of staying stuck? In a similar question, do they have to deal with all the junk in the past in order to do so?
So yeah, so let's answer the first question. It's about helping, it's about understanding, just like we touched on just a moment ago, is understanding that you don't even necessarily have to pay attention to anything that's really going on in your head. Your mind, especially if it's something that you haven't done, when we're going into entrepreneurship, most of us, we've never maybe been down this road, or we're shifting into a new place in entrepreneurship, brand new. So we have to recognize, again, if it's brand new, a lot of times it feels scary to our brain. If it's scary, our brain will interpret that as it's about to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. And it does not want you to become lunch. So it is, once we recognize that, it gives power to that. It doesn't make the feelings scarier. I still will have the feelings of anxiety. I still will have the sweaty palms when I'm reaching out to somebody that's high stakes, but I can understand it logically, and therefore it lessens how that affects me. And 9 times out of 10, when people understand it, or I'm going to say 10 out of 10, is it's almost like an aha moment for them. It's like, oh, I can do these scary things and I can do it anyways. And so, and resilience comes into place. How resilient am I to come and bounce back from if it doesn't work out the first time around? And courage is built on, am I willing to walk through the valley? I always like that as we know we're here, we want to go here, and then it becomes like this upside down bell curve. And the upside down bell curve is where all the unknowns live. And that's true where we come in and we recognize what is unknown is scary for our brain. Am I willing to walk through the unknowns in order to get to the other side? And that is such an individual question that it comes down to that person. It's a question that we all wrestle with. I'm sure you do too, Leanne, on a constant basis. Like, here's another unknown. Am I willing to go through that in order to get to the other side? But to round that out, it is the awareness about how anything that's unknown affects our brain. And so often a lot of that comes from things that almost goes into your second question. A lot of that also comes in from our upbringing. So how we end up going through something, or what we end up creating, also depends so often on where do we come from, what's our history. It colors so much of what our current state of mind is, because some people have an easier time in entrepreneurship and they sail through it easy, and it's not that hard. It's not they don't wear everything on their sleeve. Well, their upbringing, most likely something different was shown to them. If you don't have that kind of upbringing, a different upbringing, it colors that whole journey for you in a different way. So there is worthwhile time sometimes to ask, where is this coming from? I'm thinking X, I'm not good enough, I'm not this. Where is that coming from, for example? And then the follow-up question that I usually ask from that is, do you still want to hang on to that? Do you still want to hang on to that now and allow that to color your future? So that becomes one of those questions. So no, you don't need to have everything cleared up in your past. I don't think it's actually possible to do so. That's my personal belief. But I think it's worthwhile looking when we're at a certain place and we're not moving. It's worthwhile asking what's there, because usually something was given to us, usually with our permission. And we take it along through our journey in life, and we just believe that is part of us, but we never really got to make a decision on whether that's actually true or not.
Sure. And, I think I'm thinking back on that conversation about pivoting. I mean, there is something to be said about pivoting.
For sure.
But like you said, there can be, uh, positive pivots, and there can be less, what's the word I want to use? Less uh, proactive pivots, I guess. Well, here, so when life and work feel like too much, like you said, our brains often default to the numbing, the scrolling, the busy work. So, what are a few brain-friendly ways that someone could create momentum this week, without triggering that shutdown response if they're faced with something?
So if they're faced with something like that, is I would definitely go encourage them to okay, so first we have to understand, what are you trying to accomplish? So that's number one. And do we have all the right steps in place to bring it to fruition? And if, of course, the question is yes, then there's forward movement. I can tell though, if there's no forward movement, we don't have the right first step identified. And sometimes the right first step is something completely different than what you thought about. I had, just to bring in a quick story, I had a real estate agent some years ago, and all she wanted to do is send Christmas cards to her sphere of influence, all the lovely people that helped her build her business. That's all she wanted to do, simple task. We identified, I want to say 20 some odd steps that kept her from sending those cards, 20. So exactly. So it is identifying, do I have the current right first step in order to move? Because then I will move in that direction. So when you're sitting there and you're stuck in overwhelm and you're all anxious, you may want to go back and say, okay, what does my vision look like? And do I have all the right steps that are part of this particular vision? And then also remember not to come in with the how. Toss out the how. Stay in that vision, unless you're actually actively working on the how. That goes with the steps. Do I have my first, especially the first one, do I have my first clear step identified in this journey on figuring out the hows when it comes to building, a business. So those would be probably my top two that you can proactively bring control back into your life. So, and get you back here. You want to go back here. Again, we want to access that prefrontal cortex so we can go back to planning. Back over here, and here's ruminating. That's what keeps us on the couch. And ruminating does not get us where we want to go. And ruminating is designed to keep us stuck.
I have to ask. So, what was her first step that she ultimately had to get? The first of her 20 steps. What did she have to do?
She needed to get all names organized.
Ah,
That was the step that got her moving. So, I mean, all these things, but she realized she's like, oh my gosh, I don't even have all the names, the first names and last names matched up.
oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, this year I've had an opening, an awakening of how I had actually shut down conversation in many ways. Um, After some businesses closed in the past. And so it was a protection modality, I'm sure of it, where I was like, well, if they can't reach me, I can't thrive. If I can't thrive, it's not my fault.
Right.
It was just this cycle. I didn't even know I was running it until this year. Suddenly one day I was like, huh, my voicemail's full. I've known my voicemail has been full for 2 years. But one day I was like, huh, I'm going to open my voicemails. And then I
Okay.
realized, oh, and I just started doing these little steps. And that's actually when I woke up to the fact of what I had been doing. It
Yeah.
was just the time had happened. I don't know what else changed, but suddenly there was just this ability to move. And it's beautiful. It was and is
Yes.
beautiful because it happens on the regular now. More and more things I realize digital frictions that
Yeah.
I've allowed are no longer acceptable. And
Yeah.
I haven't solved them all at once. It's still a mystery to me. I don't care for it, but I'm getting there and I'm allowing myself to take it step by step.
And that's it. I bring grace to the journey and really give permission to allow it to happen step by step. That is really the key. We take the elephant in bites. We can't eat the whole elephant. Let's chunk it down. So, but the chunking down also is we have to be able to identify the right steps. And sometimes we hit on something. And like you did, I said, oh, this is the first thing that has to happen here in order, right? And sometimes people just can't. And that's where, coaches come in because we get to come in and ask powerful questions and things like that and say, okay, are we really at this place where we can move? And me personally, I always come from the place of I'm more interested in what you didn't accomplish over maybe this week. If we had some accountability, I want to know what didn't happen because then I know we're not in the right place yet and there's more to discover.
Oof. Okay, audience, write that down. What didn't you do last week? Write that down. Excellent. That's so good. Well, we are going to wrap up here fairly quickly, but I want to know more about you right now in your own grow and go beyond season, because we're always kind of at the beginning and at the end of the sailing system all at the same time.
Mhm.
How are you applying these same neuroscience principles to your life as a coach, a hiker, a mom, a whole human, and not just your business?
Not just my business. So I would say I live in that space 24/7. So anything I do at this point is simply colored by that kind of questioning. It's like I recognize my brain. I know when it comes in with things that are not useful for me. And for when we're first starting this work, it's every day we are fairly going through life in kind of an automatic way. We think the things that we think, we do the things that we do, but we hardly ever are conscious most of what we're thinking, and we don't question it. And so for me, it has become standard practice is I question my thinking all the time, like all the time, because I am so enmeshed in that space. And so that has really helped me to, I think I'm much keener in shutting things down, changing, pivoting into different directions because I've learned that my thought process is not the override. It's not the be all end all in my life. And that I certainly can affect it and make changes. And because I've been in this space for so long, it's almost like I can't help it. It's always with me. For in my personal though, I want to share their quick story. Whenever I'm faced with something that feels really daunting to me, I up the ante and I do something beforehand that feels more terrifying to me than the actual thing that I want to do. So, for example, I love seeking out fire towers. Here in Indiana, where I am, we have these amazing fire towers that were built years ago for fire watchers to be up in these fire towers and call out fires as they saw them across the state. It was like a communication device that was built. And these fire towers are huge. And I mean, they're tall. I don't even know how many feet tall because they go above all the big trees and such. And so yeah, and I go seek those towers out and they're rickety structures, very rickety. I mean, and so I will go up that fire tower, and so I can reset my threshold for what I can handle. So when I come down this fire tower, which sometimes then I have to scooch down on my bottoms because I'm so terrified coming down from there. But whatever I really wanted to do that felt so terrifying, I will go do it that afternoon because it has no more power over me.
Yeah. For my background, I have done 5 different fire walks with Tony Robbins.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I'm a black
Same,
belt,
right? Yeah,
so we have to break boards. And just the power of doing those things, even the memory of having done things that other people look at and say, that's hard or
yeah,
that's impossible.
exactly.
If you can get yourself out there and do 1 or 2 hard I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. My husband didn't talk to me for 2 days, but we got through that. That was, 26 years ago. And but situation, funny story,
Yeah,
but um, I loved it. I never want to do it again.
yeah.
But when it got to the edge of the airplane, the guy, it was a tandem jump. He's like, okay, on the count of 3, he's like 1, 2, and I just leaned forward. I'm like, we're doing this
Yeah, we're
anyway.
done.
Why do I have to wait to 3? So that's
Okay. Yeah, that's
why do I
yeah,
have to wait for you to say 3? Let's go.
and it just, I mean, it does something to reset that threshold of what you think you can do and what feels scary for you. In our modern world, such little, and I'm going to put that in quotation mark, but so very little is actually scary, feels scary that when we want to do something simple as making a phone call, if you do something that ups the ante, that phone call is going to mean nothing to you and you're going to sail through that. And for me, so doing things like that, and I'm a long distance hiker, so I constantly stay in that mental space of where I have to challenge my mind to do more and push further. So routinely hike 20, 30 miles and whatnot. And to be, it sharpens you, it sharpens this. And this is the most amazing tool that you have, that if you know how to mold it, it will take you in directions that you haven't even dreamed of.
Beautiful. Well, I have one more question, but for our audience, I want you to know, her Coach B's focus is in real estate and helping with real estate professionals. But if you like what you've heard, maybe you want to follow her on social media anyway, right? So all of her contact information is going to be below wherever you found this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you've been listening to this so far. We'd love it if you'd give us a like, a follow, things like that. But connect with her. Her information is right down below, so be sure to check that out. And finally, my last question. This has gone so fast,
Oh, it's
but
gone really fast. Yeah.
for the person listening who recognizes themselves in everything we've talked about, the fear, the procrastination, the stop, start cycles, what is one gentle, realistic first step they could take after this episode to begin rewiring those patterns?
I would say, first of all, take a deep breath. Know that you're not alone. that the majority of entrepreneurs are either exactly in that same space or have been in that space. So you are perfectly on time and with everything that you're feeling and going through as well. And so that is key. Permission granted to allow yourself to really just be okay in the current season that you are in your business. It's a season of your business. No, and then keep identifying what is that next step. What is that next step that I may need to have? Do I need to talk to somebody? What is that next step that I need to have in my life in order to push things a little bit, further? And be very mindful what this is giving you. When you're hearing those thoughts come in, challenge them. Say, do I want to believe that right now? And what else can I believe? Come up with a different thought. And this has nothing to do with positive, there's this thing about what's it called? Toxic positivity. Toxic positivity, that was a thing, right? It's not toxic positivity, it is challenging and reframing. Because if I can think one thing, I can think something different. And that is true, because neither one is true at this point. These are just thoughts. So why not curate a thought that will actually allow you to move in a direction that you want to do?
This is all so lovely. Birgit, thank you for bringing so much clarity and compassion to how our brains really work. I know there's someone listening, maybe a real estate agent, maybe a manager, maybe a future entrepreneur who suddenly feels less broken and more hopeful because of how they understand their resistance is human, not a character flaw. If this episode spoke to you, would you share it with just one person in your world who is burned out, stuck at a ceiling, or trying to build a business or career that doesn't cost them their health and, Birgit said it, joy? If you want more conversations like this, you can always hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss our next conversation of encouragement and strategy. So to our audience, keep spreading the joy, keep leading with heart, and I'll catch you on the next wave of success. Thank you so much, Birgit.
You're welcome.
Hey, sales setters, are you ready to launch or refresh your business? Join us at the very next Beyond the Business Plan Summit for breakthrough strategies and inspiration. Visit joyminder.com/summit or check the link in the show notes for our incredible list of speakers and topics, and let's go beyond business plans together. Thanks for sailing with me on Beyond the Business Plan, the podcast. If this episode helped you as a sales setter, the best next step is to follow the show and share it with one friend who's ready to move beyond burnout into a more aligned way of doing business and life. If you want to go deeper, join me live at the next Beyond the Business Plan Summit online, happening May 17th through 19th. You'll hear from experts on profit, real estate, legacy, and whole person planning, all through the lens of the S.A.I.L.I.N.G System, which you can download at joyminder.com. You can save your spot and get more details and download the S.A.I.L.I.N.G System at joyminder.com. Until next time, keep setting your course and adjusting your sails beyond the business plan.